Naruto is one of the most popular and recognizable anime franchises in the world, so because of that, it's no stranger to video game adaptations. Naruto has gotten a number of one-off game releases such as Shinobi Striker and Dragon Blade Chronicles, as well as fully fledged game series such as Clash of Ninja and Ninja Council, but the longest running, coming in at 15 years of releases, and most critically acclaimed game series has to be the Ultimate Ninja Storm series. Then I want to figure out just what gives this series its lasting power. And to do that, I'm going to start in this video with its first release from 2008, Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, which is far from perfect. Despite Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm being the first entry in the Naruto Storm series, it's actually a spin-off of the Naruto Ultimate Ninja series, also known as Naruto Narutimate in Japan. Developed by CyberConnect 2 and published by Bandai Namco, the Ultimate Ninja games are a series of 2D fighting games. Its first release was on the PS2 in 2003 in Japan, in 2006 in North America. It would go on to release 4 sequel games, with the final one releasing in 2007 in Japan, in 2009 in Europe and Australia, but never receiving a North American release. In addition to these home console games, there would also be a number of games released on the PSP between 2007 and 2011. But that's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to go over the Ultimate Ninja spin-off series, Ultimate Ninja Storm. Currently, there are 7 games in the Storm series, 4 of which are mainline titles, and 3 are spin-offs. The very first entry being released in 2008, but was first officially revealed in September 2007, known simply as Naruto PS3 Project. The previous Ultimate Ninja games were all released on the PS2, which by this time was past generation hardware, and Bandai was looking to push the Ultimate Ninja series to new heights on the newest generation of consoles with the PS3. Funny enough, Bandai actually asked fans themselves for suggestions for the new series subtitle. So either that was a fun marketing gimmick, or they were just really lazy and had no good ideas. Regardless, in April 2008, the game's official title was revealed as Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm. Alongside this announcement, a survey was sent out where fans could actually vote on the game's cover art out of 6 different choices. I know I just made a joke about this 10 seconds ago, but I do gotta give props to Bandai that the community interactions were a really nice thing to see. Now if only they could listen to what fans are saying now. Well, that joke aged poorly. Anyways, moving away from marketing and back to the development side of things, developers CyberConnect 2 were looking to push the series to the limit using the power of the new generation of consoles. The core behind this push was an overhaul of the series' art style. Not only would the gameplay be in 3D, but the game would feature cel-shaded graphics that, according to developer Hiroshi Matsuyama, would break the barrier between anime and video game. And credit where credit's due, I can definitely see their vision in the final product. Getting back to the marketing side of things, a playable demo of the game was available for download on July 17, 2008, months before the game's official release. Bandai was going all out to build hype for this game, and the official release date was finally revealed at the Tokyo Game Show as November 4th, 2008 in North America. And who could have guessed that Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm would in fact release on November 4th, 2008 in North America? And January 15, 2009 in Japan. Why do they have to wait so long? Storm released originally on the PS3, but would go on to be released on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC as part of the Storm trilogy in 2017. The Switch would get it a year later in 2018, and the latest platform to get it would be mobile devices in 2024, for some reason. Following its initial release, Storm received generally positive reviews from fans and critics alike. IGN gave it an 8.4 out of 10, GameSpot a 7.5 out of 10, and GamesRadar Plus a 3.5 out of 5. Currently on Metacritic, it sits at a 75 critic score and a 7.4 user score. The general sentiment seemed to be that the visuals were the game's strongest point, and there were a number of other fun mechanics, but ultimately it was lacking in combat depth and things to do. And I have to agree with most of those points. But let's take a deeper dive into each of these arguments, as well as the game itself. The big selling point of the Storm series over the original Ultimate Ninja series was that now you could experience fully fledged 3D battles in a number of open arenas, as opposed to the original 2D battles. The gameplay itself, however, is still quite similar to its parent series, with a number of differences, the most notable of which obviously being the new movement. You're able to move in all directions with the camera dynamically following you around. And while this wasn't a new idea by any means, with titles like Dragon Ball's Budokai Tenkaichi incorporating a similar mechanic years earlier, it would still set the precedent for anime games to come. Games like Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles, Jump Force, and many others would follow a similar 3D arena formula. Back in 2008, this was still a fairly fresh idea, but now over 15 years later, the market is incredibly oversaturated with cheap imitations. Getting back on track, in terms of other movement abilities, you can jump, dodge, and perform a ninja dash. When it comes to attacking, you have one basic attack button, that when repeatedly pressed will automatically do a combo. There are also 2 variations of this combo depending on what direction you're holding the joystick. There's also a tilt attack known as the flick art, that if you quickly flick the joystick, then press the attack button at the same time, you'll do a new attack. Some characters feature a full repeatedly pressable combo, whilst others are simply one move. You also have a mid-air combo, which is performed using the same basic attack button. You can block attacks, and also perform throw attacks that can bypass blocks. Finally, in terms of basic attacks, you have a shuriken attack, which is just a basic ranged attack. The other main gimmick with this combat is the chakra system. You have a meter of chakra that you can either charge by picking up chakra spheres on the ground, or by manually charging it with the press of a button. With your chakra, you can perform a number of different abilities. Chakra dash to quickly close distance, chakra shuriken to enhance your ranged attack, jutsus, which are essentially special attacks, and ultimate jutsus, which are, as the name would imply, your ultimate attacks. Finally, you can also use your chakra to perform substitution jutsus, which if you time it correctly and activate it right after an attack lands, then you can substitute out of the attack. In theory, the chakra system is an engaging resource management mechanic, but in practice, you never actually run out of enough chakra where you need to be actively thinking about it. Finally, we have 2 more moves, the first of which is the Awakening, which can be activated after losing a certain number of health. In their Awakening mode, characters have enhanced damage, speed, and even new abilities entirely. In the final part of the moveset are items. Each character has a different set of consumable items that can be used in the middle of a match, usually buffing themselves, debuffing opponents, or setting up traps. Oh, you thought I was done with the gameplay? No, we're just getting started. There are a number of other mechanics and fun little details that can occur during matches. You can fight and move on walls, guards can be broken after taking enough damage, you can choose up to 2 support characters to perform attacks during the match, continue attack strings, or help save you from an enemy combo. There's on the ground attacks for when an opponent is knocked down. There's ultimate impacts where you can charge up the attack button to deal extra damage, which also results in a quick cutscene. There are jutsu clashes when both players activate a jutsu at the same time, resulting in both players having to press the proper buttons faster than the other. And the ultimate jutsus have a similar mechanic. When the initiating player wins, they get to deal more damage, and if the receiving player wins, they get to reduce the damage dealt. So there's clearly a lot of cool stuff going on here. I like the ultimate impacts, I like the ultimate jutsus. It's really easy to create a cinematic battle. But the problem is that it's just a pretty subpar competitive experience. It's pretty clear here that the combat is for a casual player. Stuff like long ultimate cutscenes and quick time events in the middle of matches is a pretty good indicator of that. And while I do think a lot of these mechanics are cool, it does mean that the combat gets pretty repetitive. It really boils down to just pressing one button over and over, with occasionally throwing a jutsu or 2 in here and there. There's no inherent problem with making a casual fighting game, but in this case, it just gets old real quick. There's also no online play, so maybe that's the obvious sign that this is a pretty casual experience. Yeah, there is a severe lack of game modes here. There is free battle, but there's no online battles, and the only other game mode is the story mode, which is where you're going to be spending most of your time, whether you like it or not. The story mode does a lot of things right, and a lot of things wrong. As the first entry in the new Storm series, CyberConnect 2 went all out and created a fully explorable Hidden Leaf village full of NPCs to talk to, side quests to take on, items to buy, and more. You're able to use a number of different ninja movements, such as wall running and jumping, to traverse around the hub world. It's a pretty neat inclusion, and aside from the hub world to explore, you can play through a number of what the game calls flashback missions, which tell the entire story of part 1 of Naruto. Except it actually doesn't, because it skips the Land of Waves arc for no reason. Yes, there are missions for every canon arc of pre-time skip Naruto, except for the Land of Waves arc. There is no definitive known answer for why they did this. The most common theory is budget and time constraints. Or just general laziness. I'd opt for the budget constraints because the rest of the story mode doesn't have that much effort put into it either. Most of the story is told through scrolling text walls with the occasional cutscene here and there, and the missions themselves don't have much variety. There are 4 main types of missions: regular battles, tree climbing, traversal, and boss battles. The regular battles are just regular battles. They're fun in the beginning but get stale the more you play. The tree climbing and traversal mini-games are kind of cool, I guess. I like their inclusion initially until I realized that it's exactly the same thing every time you play them, but the boss battles are where this game really excels. They are few and far between, usually just 1 per arc, but they feature actual variations in the gameplay, quick time events to keep you on your toes, and fully animated 3D cutscenes which look great. Another problem with the story missions though, is that if you haven't seen or read the source material, then you are not going to know what is going on, because this game does a pretty poor job at accurately explaining what's happening in the story. So if you've already watched or read Naruto, then I can see you getting some fun out of this, especially with the boss battles and a couple of the regular battles. but I still can't really recommend this definitively because the progression is abhorrent. So in order to unlock more story missions, you don't just have to beat the previous story missions like one would assume. No. You have to gain enough mission XP to unlock more story missions. In order to unlock more mission XP, you have to travel about Konoha, completing side quests, which include regular battles, the repetitive mini-games from story mode, as well as some missions that take place around the hub world, such as playing hide and seek with Konohamaru. I like the inclusion of the explorable hub world, but when you're forced to run across the entire map to activate a side quest, then run to the opposite side of the map to actually start said side quest, then do the actual side quest, which is probably something you've already done a million times, just to be able to do the story missions, then I kinda wish they didn't include the hub world at all. It's just so obviously meant to artificially extend the game's runtime. I really don't understand why they couldn't just let you progress through the story normally, then have all these side quests as just normal post-game content. The character roster in this game is a massive missed opportunity. There are 25 playable characters and 10 support-only characters that were added after launch as free DLC. For playable characters, we have Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, Shikamaru, Choji, Ino, Rock Lee, Neji, Tenten, Shino, Kiba, Hinata, Gaara, Kankuro, Tamari, Kakashi, Guy, Jiraiya, Tsunade, the third Hokage, Orochimaru, Kabuto, Kimimaro, Itachi, and Kisame. The support-only characters are Asuma, Kurenai, Anko, Shizune, the first Hokage, the second Hokage, Kidomaru, Sakan and Ukon, Jirobo, and Tayuya. It's not a bad roster, and I do appreciate that you can actually start the match in a character's awakened state, but man, these support-only characters should have just been playable characters. I know, budget and time constraints, but to skip out on the Sound 4, where the main antagonist of the Sasuke retrieval arc is pretty lame. And like I mentioned before with the story mode, we should have gotten Zabuza and Haku too. I think I've been negative for too long now. Let's go over this game's arguably most positive feature. Even over 15 years later, a game from 2008 still looks amazing. The developers really knocked it out of the park and achieved their goal of making a game that looks just like the anime. The boss battle cutscenes, the ultimates, the impacts, the character models, the hub world, everything about this game looks great. Alright, that's it. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm kicked off the Storm series in spectacular fashion. It perfectly outlined the series' art style and gameplay going forward, establishing a standard that future games could follow. Going back to it now though, it's a very unique experience. The hub world is a cool addition, as no future Storm games would do the same, but that awful progression really leaves a bad impression. The story missions themselves were also kind of lazy. The lack of real cutscenes ensured that non-fans wouldn't really understand what was going on, and the repetitive minigames make a slog to get through, even for fans of the source material. The cut content in terms of story arcs and the character roster are also turnoffs. While I do like a lot of the unique gameplay mechanics here, like clashes and wall riding, which would eventually be axed from future games, they can't save the combat from getting pretty repetitive after enough playtime. And with no online play, and the only real game mode being the story mode with the aforementioned crappy progression, this isn't a game I can see many revisiting. I really like the art style, the boss battles are pretty fun, there's a lot of opportunity for cinematic battles, but there are just too many issues with this game that keep me from fully enjoying it.